Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Maller Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. LawMG.com. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnerships with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu. Smithville Fiber Internet Security Solutions and Voice in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Bunger and Robertson Attorneys at Law, utilizing 75 years of experience, knowledge, and resources to help individuals and families recover in personal injury matters. Information at lawbr.com. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk. The Bloomington Police and Fire departments have struggled with hiring and retaining police officers and firefighters. They're hoping the new facilities and an increased budget will alleviate the problem.
We're having to do more with less, and that does result in added stress on the officers.
With the federal government poised for a shutdown, it's becoming much more likely the 2016 Farm Bill will just be reauthorized, 2 years after it was set to expire.
It means that agencies like ours that are depending on that funding and that food don't know what we're going to get.
Dairy farmers warn the price of milk could skyrocket without a new farm bill. And Indiana University has threatened an employee with termination if she continues to attend vigils protesting the university's new expressive activity policy. We'll have these stories plus the latest news from across the state right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Perry Metz, sitting in for Joe Wren. Candlelight vigils protesting Indiana University's expressive activity policy continue on campus, and 18 protesters have been cited for violating the policy. One of them is speaking out on the school's threat to fire her. Higher education reporter Aubrey Wright has more.
Part of the policy bans on-campus protests from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. Over the past 4 weeks, hundreds have gathered at the Sample Gates for late-night candlelight vigils in defiance of the policy. So far, IU has cited 18 of those protesters. WTIU Development Coordinator Heather Coggy is the only staff member.
I hope that my voice is serving as a source of education and awareness about what this policy really is, because I think a lot of people on campus don't even really understand the implications of it.
She received a letter saying she'll be fired if she continues to violate IU's policy. She was told the university is treating people equally, but she doesn't believe that.
That is not the case at all. No one has received a written warning saying that they will be fired.
Coggy believes IU's response to her is more severe because staff members don't have protections like tenure or a union. IU officials declined to comment, but Provost Rahul Srivastava shared the administration's approach in a public Bloomington Faculty Council meeting this week.
If you're publicly known to be intentionally violating it, you should expect it to be enforced.
IU President Pamela Whidden agreed to review the policy next spring. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Aubrey Wright.
The Bloomington Fire and Police departments have been struggling with staffing and wages for years. But they say things may change if their budget requests are approved this year. Isabella Vesperini has this report.
The fire department has a popular training program, but has struggled to retain those firefighters who find jobs where they can make more money.
We had fallen behind in salary competitiveness, and so we had younger and middle-aged firefighters who were leaving to go to departments that were making sometimes $20,000, $25,000 more than they could make here. With just a short drive up Interstate 69, so they were taking advantage of that.
At the City of Bloomington's budget meetings last month, Kerr proposed a salary increase of $15,000 for the first year of work and a $5,000 increase for the second year. If approved, the wages would be comparable to Ellettsville and White River. But it's not all about money. Outdated facilities have also made firefighters less willing to stay. But with a new training building under construction and renovation of a station underway, Kerr hopes staff recruitment and retention will improve.
It goes with their own sleeping quarters, their own more private rooms, chargers for cell phones and iPads, all that stuff has been taken into consideration. So we're hoping that we attract, that kind of a younger generation that still wants to do this job, but also fits their needs.
After hiring 4 new EMT personnel in November, the department will be fully staffed at 120 full-time personnel for the first time in almost 2 years. When Kerr started working for the fire department in 1988, there were 82 full-time personnel. For most of 2023, his department was 21 people short. Kerr implemented mandatory overtime to compensate for the lack of staff and an increase in the number of calls. In 2023, the department received 5,961 calls. So far this year, the department has received 4,096 calls.
It brings morale down. People get tired of working. That gets pretty tough when you've planned on your kid's birthday, or you planned on taking a family vacation, or whatever it is, and you've been told, sorry, it's your turn to work, and you don't have a choice.
A firefighter's work schedule usually consists of working a shift 24 hours straight and then taking 48 hours off. When working mandatory overtime, the same 4 to 10 firefighters on call could work up to 6 or 7 extra shifts over the course of a year.
It didn't affect our response times or what we put on scene. It just affected kind of what people don't see. As far as out on the street, when a fire truck showed up, it showed up with the same number of people in the same amount of time. It's just some of those people had been there longer than necessary. They'd been there a couple days instead of just a day.
The Bloomington Police Department has also struggled with retaining staff. They're 15 officers short of being fully staffed at 105 officers.
I think it's fair to say that over the last 4 years, we have certainly struggled. It's been longer than that since I can remember us being fully staffed, but that's really when our struggles have really taken place as far as losing more than we're bringing in.
Like the fire department, the police department is losing officers after training them. They leave for agencies with more attractive benefits and salaries. Indiana University police officers recently received a salary increase of $7,000. A probationary officer is paid $70,325 yearly. The starting yearly salary for a probationary officer at BPD is $63,683. Because BPD is short on staff, officers have had to work thousands of hours in overtime, while also having to deal with a massive increase in calls received.
I do not know why. I don't have an explanation for that, but this year is trending right along those same numbers, so we're having to do more with less. And that does result in added stress on the officers.
City Council member Hopi Stossberg spoke at the budget meetings about how police may choose where they want to work based on the culture and how they feel about the system. It may not be as important as the pay.
Is that something that also needs to be looked at in terms of our culture of policing, in terms of our culture of Bloomington and how Bloomington responds to police and considers public safety as a whole?
Pettigo assured that his department has a, quote, fantastic police culture. It has implemented extensive training on de-escalation techniques and are also clear about their expectations for how officers present themselves and interact with the community.
We want our officers to police with a sense of caring, and we don't want them just simply going from call to call and just trying to take care of an issue and move on to the next. We want them to help solve the problems that the community faces.
Through the police social worker program, Pettigo wants to help officers decompress and avoid getting overwhelmed by the demanding work.
Unfortunately, officers see a lot of times what is someone's worst day on a repeated basis. So when police get called to a scene, it really could be the worst thing that person has experienced in quite some time, maybe their entire life. So that repeated exposure that can take a toll on officers.
Now that officers have new equipment and are permitted to take home their police cars, Pettigo hopes they can respond to calls more quickly.
The proposed raises in the 2025 budget, those have also already made their way out, and I have I'm in charge of our recruiting and hiring, and I've started to receive several inquiries from individuals, both from other agencies and those that are not officers that are interested in applying.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Isabella Vesperini.
With a potential increase in salary if the department's budget is approved, Pettigo says he would like to see the agency fully staffed in the next 2 years. We're joined now by Ethan Sandweiss for the latest headlines from across the state.
Republican gubernatorial candidate Mike Braun released an education plan this week that includes key policy proposals and addresses hot-button conservative talking points. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Kirsten Adair reports Braun wants to expand school vouchers, improve school safety, and boost teacher pay, among other things.
Indiana's voucher program is currently capped for families with incomes higher than $220,000. Braun's plan proposes universal school choice, which would remove the income cap altogether. The plan also emphasizes raising teacher salaries and creating a separate office for school safety. Braun plans to continue other education initiatives like improving literacy and rewarding schools whose students graduate with readiness seals. He also wants to further limit cell phone use in schools and ensure parents have access to their children's curriculum, and that schools are alerting parents when students request to use a different name or pronouns. The plan also mentions developing safeguards against critical race theory, investigating the impact of school lockdowns and mask mandates, and preventing transgender girls from participating in girls' sports. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Kirsten Adair.
Braun's opponent, Democratic gubernatorial candidate Jennifer McCormick, says Indiana has lost a balance between Hoosier citizens and utility companies' profits. McCormick unveiled a utility affordability plan Thursday she says can help restore that balance. She says a part of that plan is appointing commissioners to the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission that are more ratepayer friendly.
They feel like the IURC is a rubber stamp, and there's very little voice that is even considered and the local impact on business.
McCormick also wants to restore a program under former Governor Mitch Daniels called Energizing Indiana. It required utility companies to make investments in energy efficiency, including rebates and home energy audits. The Monroe County Council voted Tuesday to change the proposed tax hike to fund the construction of a new jail. The council decided on a 0.175% income tax increase to replace the existing Monroe County Jail, which the ACLU and Sheriff's Office say is unsafe and beyond repair.
I do not want Monroe County to make the same mistake that I've seen in other counties of building a jail that is overcrowded the day it opens. You don't want to do that.
The new rate is lower than the 0.2% rate the council requested. The current rate is 0.01%. The council passed the amended rate 6-1. Monroe County Councilor member Kate Wiltz says she's like to find a middle ground for increasing the jail size without burdening taxpayers. She suggests that a new jail be built with gradual additions of county government buildings and services added on at that location.
It can be partial for now with room to continue to expand. I just think we need to think outside the box on these things.
Consultants say construction could cost around $152 million. The council will hold another public hearing October 7th before potentially adopting the rate. Spectacular, affordable, and authentic are just a few of the words residents use to describe their concept of the convention center expansion. The Monroe County Capital Improvement Board held a public meeting this week to update and get feedback on the project, which has been years in the making.
We will have final design stages through the first quarter of next year, hopefully breaking ground in the spring. So I continue to say that for government work, it's moving at warp speed.
The process is in the early design phase. CIB members are also evaluating 3 developer proposals to be the companion hotel. The next board meeting is October 9th at the convention center. Indiana's career scholarship accounts are fully filled more than a month before applications closed. Just under 2,000 high schoolers signed up, and hundreds are on the wait list for the work-based learning scholarships. That's a sharp increase from a little more than 200 students last year.
It's just going to increase in demand because Indiana is a big state, and we have a lot of kids who, they're smart kids, hardworking kids. They're just, the typical 4-year career choice is not what they're interested in right now.
The career scholarship accounts cover expenses for internships, apprenticeships, and certifications. The program provides 10th, 11th, and 12th grade students with up to $5,000 a year. Students have to enroll in eligible programs. 93-year-old John Miley was on hand for a ceremony Monday at the IU Media School, where his vast collection of sports broadcasts will be housed. The Evansville man has been recording and collecting sports broadcasts for more than 70 years. It totals more than 44,000 video and radio recordings.
We're looking forward to being able to allow students and researchers to be able to access this collection in a way that they probably couldn't have done if it hadn't been here.
The media school has set aside a listening room where people can visit a recreation of Miley's office and view the collection as it is digitally archived. Clavio says that will take years. And Perry, a WTIU documentary on Miley titled Archiving Awareness, is available now on the website and the PBS app.
Thank you, Ethan. Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk. Food banks, farmers, and dairy producers are warning of the ripple effects if the federal government doesn't pass a new farm bill. And a plan to store carbon emissions underground in Vigo and Vermilion counties is closer to becoming a reality. These stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
This is a matter of life and death. Oh, good. Tell us everything.
Something's not right.
Could be worse.
These two crimes are connected.
That's changed everything.
Wrapped your eyes in murder again.
Needle in a haystack, right? I trust my instincts.
I should leave this alone.
But you won't.
No world is truly unchanging.
This is nature at its absolute finest.
Our daughter, she's gone missing. I should leave this alone.
But you won't. He's doing things no one had ever done before, and that is astounding.
It's absolutely mind-boggling.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. A company that wants to store its carbon emissions underground in Vigo and Vermilion counties is closer to securing a critical federal loan for the project. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Rebecca Thiel reports this week the U.S. Department of Energy announced its intent to loan Wabash Valley Resources up to $1.5 billion.
The project will have to meet certain requirements to get the loan, like an environmental review. Still, the company says it's a big step to move it forward. The Department of Energy hopes the project will revitalize a community that lost so many union jobs with the decline of the coal industry.
One of the things that the Secretary of Energy has been committed to are making sure that we are not just depending on the company to check with the local community, but that we ourselves are working closely with the local community and other stakeholders to make sure their concerns are heard.
But residents like Susan Stroll-Cause feel the government is ignoring their concerns about things like pipeline leaks, earthquakes, and that the CO2 could migrate.
We are the community. We're the impacted community. They're going to inject this out where we live, under our houses. And so to me, when they're talking to unions and this, it's just a ploy to push the job issue. That nobody wants to talk about the safety.
A few weeks ago, the only other large CO2 storage project in the U.S. notified the federal government of a leak earlier this year. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Rebecca Thiel.
Officials with Wabash Valley Resources say the announcement will help the company secure the rest of the private funding it needs for the project. For the second year in a row, it appears Congress will not pass a new farm bill, which includes SNAP and other food assistance programs. That means they will likely extend the 2018 farm bill for another year. Clayton Baumgart spoke with industry experts about the ramifications of again extending the 6-year-old piece of legislation.
Food insecurity continues to be an issue for millions throughout the country. According to a USDA report, in 2023, 13.5% of households in the United States were considered food insecure. That's a slight increase over the 12.8% that were listed as food insecure in 2022. Statistics like that mean food banks are always in need of assistance.
We're supporting a network of over 90 partner agencies in 6 counties with food that we have obtained from a variety of sources. A lot of it is rescued and donated, go to retail stores, wholesalers, collect food that they might otherwise throw out.
And one of the biggest things helping food banks in their mission is the Farm Bill, a piece of legislation that needs to be renewed every 5 years. Part of the bill focuses on agricultural policies such as crop insurance and conservation funding, but the majority of it covers the SNAP program, formerly known as food stamps, and other food assistance programs.
In our particular instance, it provided about 25% of the food that we distributed last year came through USDA commodity programs, and funding comes attached to those programs to help cover administrative expenses.
Last year, a new farm bill was due to be created in place of the 2018 version, but instead that was renewed for another year. Now, as we get closer to Election Day, it's looking less and less likely a new bill will be passed. It's frustrating for people like Alonzo because government inaction directly affects his organization's ability to carry out its mission.
I can't remember the last time Congress passed a budget on time, and unfortunately that has a ripple effect. Every time they kick the can down the road with a continuing resolution, it means that agencies like ours that are depending on that funding and that food don't know what we're going to get until the full budget is actually passed.
Alonzo says the need for an updated nutrition title is huge, as a lot has changed since 2018. The pandemic saw many families become food insecure, and that boom of those in need hasn't gone away, but the programs that help support them have.
The expanded child tax credit, universal free school meals, other anti-hunger initiatives, SNAP increases in benefits, additional commodities for food banks like ours. All of that stuff's gone away, but unfortunately the need has remained just as high as it was during the height of the pandemic.
Hoosier Hills is one of the 11 Feeding America food banks that serve the state. Feeding Indiana's Hungry represents those affiliates and says it's time for the 2018 Farm Bill to be updated.
When we have a static farm bill, things aren't necessarily lining up with what we need from an emergency hunger relief perspective.
Many of the programs in the Farm Bill, including the Emergency Food Assistance Program, or TFAP, have funding levels set for the cost of goods back in 2018. Those prices have increased significantly since then.
The support for commodity food in whatever format that might be has decreased and has gone back to sort of standard operating under the Farm Bill, but it's really not meeting the need. And so our members are struggling to have enough product to distribute.
While TFAP is important to food banks, it pales in comparison to the SNAP program in providing food to Americans in need.
Our member food banks distribute over 100 million pounds of food annually. That said, for every one meal that a Feeding America affiliate food bank provides, SNAP provides 9. It is the cornerstone of any nutrition security that we have as a country.
So why is something as important as SNAP rolled in with agricultural assistance programs and not its own piece of legislation? For one, as any person working in those realms will tell you, food security is national security. But it was also a strategic choice. In order to get both pieces passed more easily, they were combined into one bill to get votes from Republicans on the agricultural policies and votes from Democrats on the food assistance policies. Much has changed since the bill was originated.
The percentage of people utilizing SNAP benefits in rural areas is the same and sometimes higher than in urban areas. So any rural member of Congress who seems to think that the nutrition title doesn't impact their constituents is reading it wrong.
Now, the very thing that was leaned on to make the Farm Bill easier to pass may have become the thing halting it from progressing.
They're working hard and they'll do it when they can, but the system itself seems to be so bogged down in the partisanship that it makes it hard to move even an ag bill forward.
Many of the issues plaguing the nutrition side of the bill are also found on the ag side, namely the ever-changing sale price of crops.
Now you've got the farm community that's really dealing with low prices and high costs, and so there's just been so much that has changed since 2018 that things just need to be updated.
Lamb also said a new bill must find new markets for American agricultural goods.
The trade imbalance is going the wrong way for us right now, and so putting more money into those efforts, giving our products more of a market worldwide, makes all the difference.
So what are the risks of not passing a new bill? For the nutrition titles, much will carry on as it has, but without updated funding.
There's not any immediate change, largely because what we see in September for October has already been funded. Programs will continue so long as funding continues to be there, and that doesn't seem to be an issue in the short term.
The ag titles are largely similar in the short term, but one area could see major issues if not renewed or updated correctly: the dairy industry. Dairy is one of the more subsidized industries in agriculture, and the Farm Bill lays out much of that assistance. If January 1st comes along without a new or renewed Farm Bill, the country could face what is known as a dairy cliff, a point when we'd see prices of milk more than double.
Milk prices would skyrocket. We would see milk prices that we hadn't ever seen, quite frankly.
But the unprecedented would have to happen for that to occur.
If we can't get this thing done by, I guess, January 1st, then we start having some more significant conversations about the dairy cliff.
Currently, a House version of the bill is waiting for a floor vote. A Senate version hasn't made it out of committee. For Alonzo, any bill would be better than nothing.
The bottom line is that getting a renewed farm bill at the same levels is better than getting no farm bill at all. So, hopefully they'll at least get that much done.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Clayton Baumgarth.
The Indiana football team has already matched last year's win total with a 3-0 start this season. And with a win Saturday against Charlotte, Curt Cignetti would become the first IU head coach to start his career 4-0. Saturday's game kicks off at noon on the Big Ten Network. That's all for this program, but our work continues online at WTIUnews.org. Thank you.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Maller Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. LawMG.com. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnerships with communities and organizations. Rural.indiana.edu. Smithville Fiber Internet Security Solutions and Voice in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Bunger & Robertson Attorneys at Law, utilizing 75 years of experience, knowledge, and resources to help individuals and families recover in personal injury matters. Information at lawbr.com. And by WTIU members. Thank you.